Welcome to Stories and Songs by Afterglow Music. My name is Joel McCausland.
And I'm Kevin Peay, and we've been creating music for a long time.
We'd like to tell you the stories behind our songs. Today, I think I'd like to share the story behind a song I wrote a few years ago called Walk With Me. Walk with me every day. When the nights are dark and lonely, you can wash my tears away. Walk with me in all I do, and help me to have the faith I need to walk with you.
Joel, this song's pretty personal to you. Tell me a little bit more about how it came to be.
Yeah, it is. It is a personal thing. It came from a pretty challenging experience, honestly. A few years ago, my best friend, who also happens to be a first cousin, somebody I grew up with, passed away after a pretty extended illness, and I wrote this song for him. But as I tried to write it, I realized what I was trying to do was give something to his family. They were hurting. You know, he was kind of the glue that kept their family together, and so even though I wanted to write this song for him in tribute to him, what it really started to strike me as is a way to give them some meaning around something that was really hard to deal with. He was very young, and it was hard for their whole family when he passed. So it was the hardest song I think I've ever written, and ultimately the best thing about it is that it became a song for me too, because of the message that ultimately came out of it.
So this is Darin Walker. This is a dear friend of all of us.
Yep, an old Pleasant Grove boy and family there. Yep. Absolutely.
Do you have a little bit more background on Darin that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I guess, I talk about him as a great friend, and as I said, he's also my cousin. But we really did grow up together, except for a very short period of time when his family lived out of state. During my young life, particularly kind of preteens and into my teenage years, there were some things going on in my own family, some trauma and drama in my own family. My mom got a divorce when I was just a little kid and was living in Colorado at the time, and moved back to Pleasant Grove because I think she needed to be close to family, needed the support. So she comes back to Pleasant Grove and sets up, a life the best she could, doing the best she could. And after about 8 or 10 years of being single with 6 children, she met a guy, fell in love, and they got married.
Papa,
yes.
Papa.
And that was awesome, but it was hard for me, and I was not good at dealing with it. It was, I went through a lot of that kind of rebelliousness about suddenly we got a new guy in the house, and, it was hard. I just didn't deal with it very well. So Darin's family became my refuge in a lot of ways. Like, they lived 2 blocks away. They were in my same ward. And if I got in a fight with my mom or Papa, if I had a problem at home, a lot of times I just head out the door and go down to Darin, and Lynn and Linda are his parents, Lynn and Linda Walker, and they are my parents, just almost as much as my own. And I know they've kind of adopted you too, Kev, over the years. They're special.
Yeah, they're so special. Good friends are amazing, and you're just like that to me. Darin was to you. Yeah. And what happened after that?
Well, so I'm thinking about it still, kind of that time. We spent a lot of time together, and as time went on, of course, like we do, we kind of moved in different directions in life. And there was another kid named Jeff Willis who was also in our ward. We were all pretty close, did a lot of stuff together in high school. And I left on my mission a year before those guys went. But after a few years of kind of this growth and becoming adults, we ended up in a perfect triangle. Jeff was living in Ely, Nevada. I was living in northern Utah, here where I live now. And Darin was living in St. George. He'd met and married a girl from down there and was building a good life and a business down there. And it was kind of funny, it's like, and we all have friends like this, but we didn't talk to each other. This was before texts and other things that make it a little easier today. We might go months without seeing each other, calling each other, talking to each other, and then something would happen and we'd be in St. George for a ball tournament, or we'd be at some event in Pleasant Grove. We'd run into each other, and it was like no time had passed. like it was just like yesterday. And you just jump right into conversations about kids and what's going on with your life. And it was that kind of easy, solid, just lasting friendship, which is great to have for all of us. And we had this time, when we're all doing the same thing, raising kids and trying to get ahead in business and doing the things that we can. And then Darin had a life-changing experience. In fact, he had two. He got called as a bishop for his ward down there. And nobody knew yet. He'd been approached and gone through the process, and they had let him know that he was going to become a bishop. And then that same week, he had a heart attack. And it's one of those, what they call a widowmaker heart attack. He should have died. When they started doing an analysis of his health, it was the worst they had ever seen for cholesterol and heart trouble. And kind of crazy that it would happen at the same time. And literally because no one knew about the calling yet, there was some question by his stake president, by others, his family, and that would have been just his wife, Leslie, that she's the only one that knew at the time. But they asked the question, should we go ahead with this calling? He's near death's door in the hospital. And as it turned out, he got through that, but it was rough. So he had this tragic thing happen at the same time. He had this wonderful blessing, and the call was made by his stake president up to Salt Lake City. And stake president said, should we proceed? Is this the right thing to do? And the message he got, I don't know who he talked to. It was probably one of the general authorities, but he was told he's exactly where he's supposed to be. This is supposed to go forward. Extend the call. He's going to be okay.
I think this is the time that Cindy and I were down in St. George, and any time that we could drop by to see where the catering business was, because they had that catering business, we would somewhat check in and see how he was doing. And I remember this specific time when he had this health issue and this challenge. And if I remember correctly, he wouldn't say a whole lot about really anything. He was just very quiet, but yet you knew you were standing in front of a mountain. And it was, Leslie would offer up a little bit if you asked the question, but it was really hard to get anything out of Darin. But I knew that these challenges were taking place in his life. And I just felt as though I was standing in front of this amazing man who heaven knew in a very unique and deep way.
That's such a great reflection, Kev, because up until that time, my feelings about Darin were he's my buddy, right? We go hang out. We do stuff. We even got in trouble together. And I think of him as a pretty normal guy, right? All these times. And then he gets married to Leslie, moves down to St. George. And because of that separation, I didn't really know what was going on in his life all the time. But you'd get these little hints. We'd do the same thing. Go down to St. George. We'd run into him. We'd spend a little time, go out to dinner or something. We'd just hear. He'd never offer anything. But what we didn't know was the impact that he was having. We really didn't understand that. So, he's busy, like busiest guy I knew. He was getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning with his catering business. He was feeding firefighters down there on the wildfires. He was doing, I think he told me he served 25,000 meals one week when we were there. 25,000 meals, just events all over that southern Utah market down there.
Well, and you could go anywhere and you could ask somebody about the catering business in Darin Walker. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew him and Leslie.
And that was such a shock to me when I first realized that, because he's just my friend. And honestly, it's kind of tough to go to a place like St. George and suddenly be like you grew up there. But that's the way people came to feel about Darin. And the crazy thing for me is all during this time, to your point about him not really sharing stuff, he didn't, from that day he had that first heart attack until the day he died, he didn't have a single healthy day. He went to the Mayo Clinic 3 or 4 times for weeks at a time. They tried to figure out what was wrong with him, and he never got a medical diagnosis that anybody could understand. The doctors couldn't agree what was wrong. And he never had a healthy day, and he just kept doing everything he kept doing. And there were multiple times during that time when that same question came up. Darin's close to death. Let's call Salt Lake City. Let's make sure it's okay for him to continue to serve as a bishop. I know of at least 3 occasions where that happened. Every time, he's right where he's supposed to be.
You remember the day he passed?
Yeah. In fact, my memory of hearing about it kind of kind of led up to it, I knew it was getting close. I knew he was really in a desperate situation. I mostly was talking to Linda, his mother at the time, a little bit to Leslie. But it was early in 2014. I think it was actually February of 14, so just 10 years ago now. And he'd served almost 5 years as a bishop, been doing that work all that time. And of course, the call came to me to let me know that that had happened. And then they asked if we would come down, and of course we would have been there anyway, but they wanted me to sing with one of Leslie's cousins at the funeral, which was another amazing experience. Just of all the little things I'd learned about Darin by watching and kind of dropping into his life over those years, that was when I got the full impact of what he had been up to down there and what he had done for people.
This is fairly symbolic because I think every one of us or most of us have had someone pass in our lives. And grateful that this experience for you has brought these feelings of inspiration to write such a song that is giving healing and understanding to others that have had unique experiences with loved ones who have passed on, and that there's a feeling of hope that they're close by. So this experience with Darin is just wonderful and fascinating, and life moves on, and heaven does too.
Yeah,
and they
for sure.
they are walking, and they are busy, and Darin, I just can't imagine what is going on in his world currently.
Yeah, those are, I'm sure there's some pretty sacred experiences with his family, but they've known on a number of occasions that I'm aware of, things that when he's been particularly close over these past 10 years. I was thinking the other day about the funeral itself and about what happened there. I'd like to say I wrote this song and sang it for his funeral, but I didn't. I couldn't. I don't know. I was not in a place where I could put my thoughts and my feelings in a place to create a song. And I tried. I had about a week before the funeral, and I sat down every day of that week trying to figure out what to say, how to say what I felt about this. And they finally settled on a song. It's called Blessings. I think it's, I can't remember the artist right now, but a contemporary Christian artist wrote this song called Blessings. And it's an awesome song. It was perfect for this, One of the key lines in the song is, maybe our blessings come through rainbows, maybe our healing comes through tears. And I thought, okay, I'm good with this. And I sang with Sherry Staley, who is Leslie's cousin, and it was nice. It was a really appropriate, beautiful song. But I really felt bad that I hadn't been able to write a song because I really wanted to. And the day of the funeral, we get down there, it was kind of a chaotic thing. I didn't know the song, had to learn it the night before. And we went to the church early to get ready, to the stake center where they were holding the funeral. And we were there about an hour, maybe an hour and a half early. And when I walked in, I thought I was late. The building was full, completely full, all the way to the back row. And I think the people who were running the funeral, so to speak, the ecclesiastical leaders, they were like, oh my gosh, it's an hour and a half before the funeral. So they went down the street about 6 blocks and opened up another church and broadcast the funeral there. And by a half an hour before the funeral, that church was full. And then I had the chance to kind of walk out just before it started, and I saw at least 500 people milling around on the lawn. Couldn't get in, had no place to listen, but wanted to be there. I guess that was really when I got a clear sense of the impact that he had had on people. And we heard so many stories over the next few days of people who were coming to Leslie and talking about what he had done for them. He ran a business. He would employ people that had, in some cases, probably no business being employed by his company, but he wanted to give them a chance. And he would employ kids that were wondering about a mission. All the things that he could do to sort of bring people within his circle. And then in that quiet way that you described, just not really telling him anything, just being who he was and helping him when he could. And I've talked to so many people who said, I wouldn't have gone on a mission without Darin. I wouldn't have been married in the temple without Darin. I wouldn't, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
So many people that he helped during that time. So pretty impactful moment to go through all that. I was so grateful that we had a chance to be part of that. And that was pretty cool. But it actually took me 3 years to write the song.
After the time.
After that.
After the funeral.
Yes. I tried.
Yeah.
I actually wrote one. I've sung it for funerals, actually. It's a finished song. I wrote a song. We put it on an album.
Yeah.
And I wrote another song, and I thought, that's a pretty good song. That's good. That's capturing kind of what I think. And I thought, well, I got to play this for Lynn and Linda and for the family. And I did. And they were really nice about it. But we all knew it wasn't the song, it was okay. Just as a generic song about losing someone. And it's called A Life Well Lived. And that's a descriptive song about his life for sure.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the song. And it really did. It took me 3 years.
When I heard this song, I was so moved by the specifics to Darin, but the overall encompassing umbrella for everyone. It really moved me, and I'm grateful that it took you 3 years to write it because it's one of my favorites. It's so refined, and so right on the mark.
Oh, thanks, Kev. I really wasn't sure. I'd struggled with it for so long, and I forget what it was, some family party, I guess, and I finally finished it. I just kind of sat back and like, okay, I think I finally said what I wanted to say about this, and just within a couple of days, I had the chance to play it for their family. And time is a healer, and time makes you get through this stuff, and so this wasn't really on their minds, I guess. It wasn't present. It's 3 years later. I know they still felt the loss pretty keenly, but I sat down and played this for a room of maybe 20 of his extended family, and from the spirit we all felt, and from the reactions that I saw on their faces, I felt like, yeah, we finally got to this. We finally got a song that did him justice and actually spelled out kind of the lessons he left for us.
So from a gospel perspective, what really struck you after this song was finished? The concepts that were associated with it and the inspiration that came. How did it influence your life as far as the doctrine and?
Yeah, it continues to. Songs are funny that way. You get a favorite song, a song you really love, and it could be anything. It could be from your childhood or your teenage years or whatever. And it always has an emotional component when you hear it again. And I can listen to this song and just think, okay, that's a song we did and it's fine. But there are times when I'll listen to it, when all these lessons come back, all these things that I felt, so many lessons around what we believe and how we feel like this great plan is structured for all of us. It gives me comfort to know that, as you said, he's out there. He's doing his thing. He's still an influence in the lives of his family. Still, however they do that, I don't know how that works, but he's still exerting a spiritual influence on the lives of his kids. And I still think he's there for his wife. I think he's there to comfort her when things are hard, And that's really the message of this song is walk with me. The other part of it for me, like we struggled with the idea that this didn't make sense, right? He's in his early 50s. He's got a great business going. He's got a good young family. He's got a real presence. He's doing good. And then suddenly he's gone. And I know there were people, all of us probably at various times said, why? Why would God take someone like that right in the middle of this time when he's doing so much good? And I thought a lot about that as I was writing it. And that's where the component of looking at what the Savior did for us came in, that second verse where it talks a little, maybe it's the third now that I think about it, but this idea that the Savior's promised to walk with us. And we had seen, gosh, this plea, Darin, you're gone, and yet we still want your presence in our lives. We want you to walk with us. And it was pretty easy parallel for me to start pulling those two together. Like, in a really personal way for his family, he's walking with them, he's there, he's watching over them. And in a much bigger perspective, like you said, this is all about what the Savior promises and does for us, is to walk with us, to help us when things are hard, to be the only set of footprints on the beach, right? When he's carrying us along.
Yeah.
That whole feeling. And that to me is maybe the best part of the message of this song.
And that's a story for another day, Footprints in the Sand.
We've got a song we could talk about there too, don't we?
No kidding, yeah. But,
Yeah.
Wow. Well, should we play the song?
I think that'd be great.
You had to go a little
little early. At least that's how it feels to me. 100 times a day I turn to you to say something, but you're not there. And every day's a little better. At least that's how I hope to feel. But still sometimes I need a little strength along the way. And so I pray, walk with me every day. When the nights are dark and lonely, you can wash my tears away. Walk with me in all I do, and help me to have the faith I need to walk with you. I saw the way you lifted others, and how you opened every door, and everyone would hear, there are no strangers here, so come, we'll give you more. Walk with me every day. When the nights are dark and lonely, you can wash my tears away. Walk with me in all I do, and help me to have the faith I need to walk with you. I know there's one whose peace can heal me. Every painful step I've made, lift my eyes to see the gifts He offers me, and then I'm not afraid. Walk with me every day. When the nights are dark and lonely, you can wash my tears away. Walk with me, all I do, and help me to have the faith I need. Walk with me, fill my soul with a peace and reassurance that is given me to know when I walk this road with you. I have all I need to make it through. I'll walk with you. Walk with me. Walk with me.